September the 21st last year, Nairobi, Kenya. Islamist gunmen rampage through a shopping mall. They murder in cold blood at least 67 innocent people, including children. As the gunmen run amok, a 29-year-old white English woman, the widow of one of the 7/7 suicide bombers, is accused of masterminding the attack. Interpol quickly add her to the list of the world's most wanted criminals. But who is Samantha Lewthwaite?
I would say she was your typical innocent British English Rose.
But this English Rose married a suicide bomber.
She must have known a lot of what was going on and chose not to disclose it.
Her and her bomber husband's inspiration was an Islamist cleric imprisoned for inciting murder, who speaks about her for the first time.
She lost her husband in the 7/7 bombing, so I would think she would be sad. But when she came, she was jovial, she looked happy. The persona that she came across is like, it's business as usual for her. Life goes on.
Now she's on the run, evading the police through a series of African countries.
My children have said they've taken sweets from her. I didn't think she was dangerous.
She was always dressed with her veil hooded over. She had a big old white Mercedes, which you notice.
The newspapers would be knocking on people's door. She just said to me, don't say anything.
Can this English Rose really be some kind of terrorist mastermind? Or is she more concerned with shopping and slimming, the Islamic domestic goddess that she describes in her diary?
When a man comes home, wife beautiful, food prepared, kids clean, this is like halal magic.
But can anyone find the White Widow?
Samantha. If she can keep the intelligence services of the world on their toes for so long, then she's a super lady. I wish I knew where she was. I want to propose to her.
The 22nd of September 2013. I'm in the air. Destination, Nairobi. We're 24 hours into the Westgate siege. The shooting continues. Witnesses say the gunmen ask shoppers if they're Muslim. Can they recite the Quran? Unbelievers are shown no mercy. As I arrive, a Somali Islamist group, Al-Shabaab, an affiliate of Al-Qaeda, claim responsibility for the attack that's still going on.
Wait. You're not allowed to fight here. I'm sorry. You don't even have a flak jacket, please. Okay.
For the last 4 months, I've been on the trail of Samantha Lewthwaite, the White Widow. Now everyone's after her. Some of the British press claim that she's inside, masterminding the operation.
According with the British newspaper, there is a woman, and according she is the wife of the suicide guy.
And do you think Samantha Lewthwaite's inside?
Samantha, as a journalist who has been on the trail for Samantha for several years, I cannot be surprised. Because this kind of attack looks like an attack from a very organized group of people.
After 4 days, the siege ends. The 4 Somali gunmen are believed dead. There are no signs that Samantha Lewthwaite was involved. But rumours don't stop. There are reports of her masterminding shadowy plots in Yemen, and that she's linked to elephant poaching in order to raise money for Al-Shabaab. And there's even an Islamist Twitter account where she's supposed to say things like, "In Islam there's no choice. It's not like Do I watch EastEnders or Corrie tonight? Is she a terrorist or just a make-believe she-devil? And what strange journey has this suburban English schoolgirl taken? Samantha Lewthwaite's story begins in the home county's town of Aylesbury. Born in 1983, she lived in a terraced house with her mum and dad, a former soldier who fought in Northern Ireland and then went into the building trade. Her best friend from childhood was a young Muslim girl who lived across the street. Samantha became a fixture in their home. She was a young girl curious about the teachings of the Quran.
Ramadan is the month chosen by God for Muslims to fast. Allah loves those who fast.
As she grew up, Samantha explored her interest in Islam. She'd go to the neighbouring families' parties and religious events. One member of the extended family was the one-time mayor of Aylesbury, Raj Khan.
Samantha was one of very few white young girls who dared to move over to the other side. I would say she was your typical innocent British English Rose. She was your average British girl playing, hopping and skipping with the other kids at Norm.
Aged 12 in 1996, she went to the Grange School. I've contacted dozens of her schoolmates and teachers. Many are embarrassed by their association with Samantha, but surprisingly they also don't want to talk on camera because they liked her and want to protect her memory. The picture I'm given is of a compassionate teenager who seemed to care desperately about social justice. And then in her A-level year, 9/11, and the invasion of Afghanistan. It was an odd time, perhaps, to be drawn towards Islam, but many were.
9/11 happened. Muslims were on the news. Muslims are getting arrested. Muslims getting this. People who said they hate Muslims, whatever, they said, no, I want a Quran. I want Islam. I want to know about Islam. Da, da, da. So a lot of people wanted to know about Islam after 9/11, which is for me, a very strange thing.
Aged 18, a year after 9/11, Samantha got an A in A-level religious studies and won a place at London University. Only then did she formally convert to Islam.
All praises are for Allah alone. Him alone we worship, and He alone we ask for help. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon the messenger of Allah and all his companions.
Aylesbury's Muslim community seems moderate, peaceful and decent. It doesn't seem to be the place to foment the ideas of holy war.
Well, I don't think that there is anybody at all in the Aylesbury area that I have heard or know about that would be engaged with any kind of promoting jihadis.
But from Aylesbury, there was already a long-established and well-trodden path towards different kinds of Islamic ideas. And that story begins in the strangest of places.
18 in the charts with 20 seconds to comply. This is Silver Bullet.
20 seconds to comply!
In the early 1990s, of all places, Aylesbury played an important part in British hip-hop. Two hip-hop crews, Caveman and Silver Bullet, raced up the charts.
Aylesbury was becoming like, yeah, what's happening? Aylesbury's kind of popping at the moment.
It's not the Bronx.
No, it's not the Bronx, but that's showing you though, that it was a time.
Foreshadowing Samantha's choice, a few of the dancers and DJs from these hip-hop crews who were brought up as Christians converted to Islam.
A large majority of Afro-Caribbean African Muslims in the UK in the 90s who converted to Islam were influenced by hip-hop and influenced by Malcolm X.
Ishmael Lee South was also a new convert at this time and an acquaintance of the Aylesbury rappers and DJs.
Because Aylesbury is a big Indo-Pakistani community, so a lot of the Afro-Caribbean / mixed race and white English as well, who embraced Islam from that area, many of them, they couldn't fit in with the Indo-Pakistani brand of Islam. They just never feel comfortable. Aylesbury crew, they found London more vibrant. So a lot of them came to London because London was starting to have more English-speaking imams and scholars and learned people.
And some members of those crews came to listen to a particularly fiery Jamaican preacher called Sheikh Abdullah El Faisal.
Al-Bara means to recognize who your enemies are and to hate them and to exterminate them in their endeavor to get rid of your deen, al-Islam.
Every week, hundreds of people, including some from Aylesbury, would attend Sheikh El Faisal's lectures, Jummahs, at this North London community centre.
Yeah, Sheikh Faisal, his Jummah, yeah. He's talking about current issues, he's relating it to the Quran and the Hadiths, and he's speaking English. Whoa, that's the Jummah to go.
It was a group of them, I think 2 carloads, that used to come down from High Wycombe and Aylesbury. I remember them by face, but I had so many friends or associates in the UK, it's difficult to remember all their names.
Samantha Lewthwaite seemed also to have followed this path. In the early 2000s, she passed on a DVD of Sheikh El Faisal's sermons, telling her friend he wasn't as bad as the media suggested. And not long afterwards, Samantha was to become very much a part of the wider community around Sheikh El Faisal. Around this time, El Faisal was constantly touring Britain. And on a visit to the north, the preacher met a 17-year-old Jamaican from Huddersfield called Germaine Lindsay, who'd go on to become Samantha's suicide bomber husband.
He was very quiet and soft-spoken. He came across as an introvert. He didn't speak much. But he came across as a fervent Muslim. Like many young black males, they want a father figure. He came across like that. I wouldn't say I became his father figure. I became someone that he took his Islamic knowledge from.
In the autumn of 2002, Samantha was given Germaine's email address. They met for the first time on a Stop the War demo.
Today also saw a relatively new and increasingly loud voice among protesters, that of British Muslims. Since September the 11th last year, many young Muslims have become more politicised.
Meeting Germaine Lindsay, who went by the Muslim name Jamal, was a pivotal moment. A few weeks after starting London University, 18-year-old Samantha dropped out and married him almost immediately.
We didn't want an arranged marriage, so I guess in a way we kind of arranged our own. The Jamal I met and married was a man of peace. We found we were very much alike and kindred spirits. He wanted to qualify as a human rights lawyer, and I was a member of an Amnesty International group at school. We wanted to make a difference to the world through peaceful means. We were married in the front room in a simple ceremony in front of an imam. My father didn't approve and stayed away. He found it hard enough when I converted to Islam, without marrying a Muslim I'd hardly met.
Over the next years, their marriage prospered. In April 2004, 20-year-old Samantha gave birth to their first child. And by the summer of 2005, she was heavily pregnant again. On the morning of the 7th of July, 19-year-old Germaine Lindsay arrived at Luton railway station at 5 a.m. He spent a few hours wandering around by himself. Then he met 3 other men, including their leader, Mohammed Sadiq Khan, also a follower of Sheikh El Faisal. All 4 young men then took the train to London. At 8:50 a.m, Germaine was standing in the front carriage of a Piccadilly line train as it left King's Cross. He detonated his bomb.
They're still desperately waiting for emergency services. We've got 2 major incidents.
Yeah, the emergency services were issuing a system-wide code amber.
Germaine Lindsay killed himself and 26 others, half of the total number of fatal victims that day. After the bombing, Samantha waited for 6 days at their home before she told the police her husband was missing. Simon Davis was a member of the Metropolitan Police Anti-Terror Squad investigating the bombings.
Samantha Lewthwaite, her name did pop up very, very quickly. Is she a sobbing, doting wife who didn't know what was occurring, or was she a bystander that chose not to get any further involved?
In the end, the authorities chose not to charge her. Not everyone seemed to agree. 2 weeks after 7/7, 2 local lads firebombed her house. A pregnant Samantha was given police protection for her own safety.
The wife of the London tube bomber, Germaine Lindsay, has been speaking for the first time since the attacks. She's condemned his actions and said his mind had been poisoned by Muslim fanatics.
Jamal is accountable for his actions, 100%. And I condemn with all my heart what he has done. I will try for my children's sake to remember the Jamal I loved. And I will raise them knowing that their father was a man who truly loved them. But the day will come when I have to tell them what he did.
I just hope people will understand I had nothing to do with this. We are victims as well.
Samantha was paid for the interview, but was she telling the truth? The 7/7 conspiracy was hatched in Dewsbury, West Yorkshire, in the year before the bombing. According to evidence from the 7/7 inquest, she was a frequent visitor with her husband Germaine Lindsay to the house of Mohammed Sadiq Khan, the ringleader. A neighbour remembers.
Mohammed Sadiq Khan, he didn't talk to anybody. He just kept a very, very secret life to himself. People around here, nearly 99% people go to the mosque. This person, Mohammed Sadiq Khan, he never went to the mosque. On one occasion, I remember the white woman, but I didn't really recognize her because she had a veil on her face. Actually, I used to see her coming from a top window once or twice.
In particular, Samantha and Germaine stayed in Khan's house in December 2004 when he wasn't there.
Not got too long to go now, and I'm gonna really, really miss you.
He was preparing for 7/7, being taught how to build bombs in Al-Qaeda training camps in Pakistan.
You look at the case of Germaine Lindsay and her, she must have known a lot of what was going on and chose not to disclose it. There's no doubt in my mind.
But these judgments are all in hindsight. In 2006, aged 22, Samantha was a mother of 2 children. She moved into this flat in Hilton Avenue, Aylesbury. Shirley Anwar, now a fellow convert to Islam, was her neighbour.
We used to see each other in passing, really, when she used to come out of her door to go downstairs and meet her mum. Her mum used to come in the car, and Samantha used to go in the car with her children, and then they'd come back together and bring the shopping up the stairs. And like I said, the mother used to visit regularly, sort of on a daily basis, I'd say, and she seemed to have a very close relationship with her mum. And I think that Samantha did tell me that her mum had just converted as well. Wore a headscarf all the time, very similar to the way Samantha used to dress as well. I saw her dad on a couple of occasions. I think he was coming in to do some work.
From what Shirley tells me, there does seem to have been some reconciliation with her family. They all took a big trip to Disneyland Paris. But what was going on in Samantha's mind?
The situation is such that many times your own family, mothers and fathers, cannot even know you are a mujahid, a fighter. It means you are a stranger amongst your own family and friends.
I never saw Samantha with anybody else. I never saw lots of people visiting the house. There were a couple of occasions where the newspapers would be knocking on people's door. You know, she just said to me, if you get anybody knock on the door, just don't say anything.
At this point, Samantha had a choice. Life as a single parent in a small town, or to build on her reputation as the wife of a martyr.
Losing her husband, I feel that she became a little bit of a figurehead in some circles. The credibility was raised, her notoriety was raised. Post-event, perhaps 1 year afterwards, someone, whether it's the police or whoever, should have looked at her and said, could this lead the catalyst to other events?
In the 2 or 3 years after 7/7, Samantha was moving in circles of fervent Muslims. Kerry Bullivant knew some of her friends.
From some of the people that I know of that had discussions with her, it would seem that she was looking for a husband who was still looking to be involved in violent jihad. In a way, these guys are kind of like rock stars. Do you know what I mean? They're on the edges of society. They're not willing to play by the rules. Some people find that sort of bad boy and on the edge of the law quite attractive, that in their eyes are brave enough and strong enough to be willing to sacrifice everything.
So what happened next in Samantha Lewthwaite's life? I think there's only one person who might have an insight. The preacher who inspired her, Sheikh El-Faisal. He'd been released from a UK prison in 2007 and immediately deported, having served 4 years for inciting murder, for saying things like, if you see a Hindu walking down the road, you're allowed to kill him. I've tracked him down to the north coast of Jamaica, and the first thing he tells me is jaw-dropping.
The first time I met her was when she came to visit me in prison. That was about 2006. That prison was Long Lartin in Worcestershire.
Sheikh El-Faisal has never told a journalist before about his friendship with Samantha.
Surprisingly, when she came to visit me, she didn't seem like she was sad or she had the world on her shoulders. It was a very pleasant visit.
And why did that surprise you?
Because she lost her husband in the 7/7 bombing, so I would think she would be sad. But when she came, she was jovial, she looked happy, she didn't look sad. And the persona that she came across is like, it's business as usual for her. Life goes on.
While living under police protection in Aylesbury, it appears that Samantha was discreetly nurturing her friendship with the jailed preacher.
We kept in touch by telephone on a regular basis when I was in prison. Women are better on the phone than men. Right. Men, they are careless on the phone. They say things that are incriminating, while women don't say incriminating things on the phone. And when I was in prison, she looked after me to a certain extent. She always asked, do you need anything? Because she's a very, very kind person. Anything I need, for example, books or clothing or cash, if you need anything, let me know, I'll send it.
So it turns out that an Islamist preacher jailed for inciting murder was able to meet the wife of a suicide bomber under the watchful eye of the security services, yet seemingly they did nothing. As I talk to Sheikh El-Faisal, it's clear that his years in prison have done little to moderate his violent rhetoric.
There are many people who have to be killed in Islam. You have to kill the apostates. You have to kill the homosexual. You have to kill the man who dabbles in black magic. You have to kill the highway robber. It's called a purge.
But what does Sheikh El Faisal know about Samantha Lewthwaite after 2008? That year, he tells me, he was on a world tour, starting in South Africa. It was there that once again his intervention would have a dramatic effect on the next steps she would take.
I had a meeting with some South Africans. It was about 20 people in the room. And one of the men expressed a desire to marry a British girl. And he expressed his preference for a white sister. So somebody said, you need to speak to Sheikh Faisal if you want to marry a white sister from the UK. So I immediately thought of Samantha. So I picked up my mobile and I rang her and said, I found you a potential husband. She didn't show any interest at first. She was shy. I know her taste.
What's her taste?
Her taste is that she would like to marry a young man who's of a different race, preferably a black, from the black race, who is very handsome and very strong in the Muslim faith. That's her taste.
On the way to the airport,